So over the summer, I've actually been back in real life football. I've been coaching a local football team, roughly about 20 minutes away. Player manager got in touch and said, like you to come across, help him out, do the coaching. And then I've been able to manage sort of like the pre-season games with him. And then the first 2 league games of the season before work has kind of set back in. So I thought it would be a good time to kind of, now it's kind of done and I've stopped doing it, it'd be a kind of good time to sort of like, I've recapped it myself in my brain of the things that we've worked on. It is a pretty good level of local league. If you remember, I did something similar last year, worked at kind of a lower league amateur level. It was pretty much very much Sunday league, and the kind of the relationship between a lot of the players and me just weren't right because they just want to kick about. Whereas the team that I worked in this summer, completely different. A couple of players played at a higher level, really good footballers, all wanted to sort of like listen and learn and get better. So it's been a really productive summer. It's whet the appetite for me. Hopefully this channel was always, for the last few years, about kind of generating enough money so I could lower my real time hours at work, so I could go back into real football management at like amateur level, and kind of link that with the channel and do some really cool stuff with the real life team that I'm coaching along with the football manager. And now that's becoming a reality next season. This was a little bit of a test drive. And remember the video that I did a few years ago where I spoke about my whole tactical philosophy? This time I went in and the manager said we kind of play 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. So I had to make some build-up patterns, shape, in possession, out of possession, everything based around obviously what the manager really wants. So it's been interesting. It actually works really well in the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you right here on the tactic board how I wanted the team to play in and out of possession. We'll go through a couple of the player roles in particular. We'll then put it into a football manager and I'll show you a couple of clips at the end. All right, guys, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy this because I'm hoping this real life stuff really links in with the channel over the next 12 months, especially with FM26 coming out. So yeah, hope you enjoy it. Let's go. Predominantly 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, a very well balanced side. There was nothing in and around where we really had to think, right, we can't play this shape, that shape because of this issues. We've got 16, 17 players all been able to maybe comfortably fit in maybe 1 or 2 roles. What we did at times was play more of a 4-2-3-1. In particular in pre-season, we had our kind of the guy who we've now moved to left forward, playing as a number 10, great ball carrier, good work ethic. And then we had 2 sitting midfielders. And we just found at times, one of the times when we did actually play, we did a little bit of De Zerbi ball. The manager didn't like it as much as I did. We were really dangerous in the attacking third, and we had some really good link-ups between the sort of like the number 10 and the striker. So you remember how De Zerbi plays where he creates this overload here in the back 4, sucks press on, and then we play out. And like the team that we have, if I kind of exclude the central midfielder, the front 3 that we have, that front 3 is the best in the league. So it's kind of at times, can we get the ball forward to them? In particular, if we've created an overload in this deeper area, can we get like 3v3s and 4v4s? Because the 2 wide players in particular will just rip them apart. And our central strikers played at a higher level. He was a youth team player at York City, exceptional, really intelligent footballer. I'm trying to give you real life comparisons of footballers in a lot of these roles to kind of, so you can get into your head of how they kind of play. And he was very much not blessed with a great deal of pace, tremendous finisher, very tidy in possession, nothing too fancy. So I would probably say like the amateur Harry Kane, where he would drop in, happy to drop in. So I was trying to create a little bit this with the 2 wide players. The wide player on this side in particular, the right forward, very much wants to be a number 9, loves to get in behind, left-footed, very direct. So the idea is that we'd create overloads in the middle and kind of feed balls into the wide areas for the two wider forwards to play in. That created problems in itself, where at times we stayed a little bit too high and we just all 4 of them sat on the defensive line. So the manager were happy. So we had a little change. And what we did do is in the end, we moved the central midfielder out to left forward. And then we've kind of in here changed it. We've got kind of 2 6s with the player manager who's HB because he's going to be a half-back, a defensive midfielder, so tidy in possession, never gives the ball away, quite decent out of possession as well. And then another central midfielder, very much a number 8, box-to-box kind of player. So we've gone from maybe being a little bit over-attacking with the wider sort of like talented dribbler coming in and then playing another winger out there to be really, not really compact, but really good out of possession with the middle three. Two fullbacks that I know the right back often played as a winger, and I believe the left fullback, naturally left fullback, like to play in midfield as well. So that's really helped. What we're trying to do as well with the team, I find, even though it's a really good level, without slagging off too many opposition teams, there's serious flaws in how teams press. There's no pressing structure set up. It's just that Mike Bassett, Sunday League, I've watched the local team that play in our division, local to us, their manager, watched them all of last pre-season, never gave them any tactical kind of information during games. There was no set pressing triggers or anything. So my plan over them 6 weeks that we've had was to get a couple of build-up patterns done because they like to play out from the back, got tremendous footballers. Make sure the attacking players are in the right areas. Transition is a difficult one to kind of coach because I kind of feel it's an attitude thing, in particular getting that ball back when we lose it. But the other thing as well, I think that most teams ignore, and it's a really good way of setting your teams up, is just the out of possession. And we've set up a very clear, simple pressing structure that actually does work using the opposition instructions in Football Manager. So we'll show you that as well. So the in-possession stuff that we're going to talk about and that we wanted to create was having at times a little bit of double width. What we find is with the away teams, the opponents, they often play in a 4-3-3. We haven't come across anything different so far. Can often maybe look like a 4-2-3-1, but they want to press rid of the front three. Now, the way that I see it is that these wide players in particular here get very individualistic in their pressing. They will charge, they will hunt, and completely forget about what's behind them. And I think the easiest way to work around that is by creating a little bit of an overload in here at times. So this is the player manager, played at a high level, played semi-pro for a number of years, played for me a long time ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago. Superb player, tremendous on the ball, should be still playing probably at a higher level than this, but he likes to drift, he likes to drop in, likes to get on the ball. So at times he would just drop in here and play little bounce passes, and at times we'd build out with a three. But what we're trying to create at times is trying to get the centre-backs wide, either the goalkeeper coming in or one of the central midfielders, defensive midfielders coming in, whether it's the half-back or the other number 6, coming in and splitting. And then what we're trying to do is encourage the two wide players to hunt and go press the centre-backs. Because what I've asked my centre-backs to do is go pretty wide. That then pushes on your two full-backs, and we end up looking a little bit like that. When the ball's in here, this striker is not going to keep doing this. If he does, we'll keep just rotating possession. But eventually, it'll be the option of one of the wide players to go in. And generally, because of the positionings that we've got here with our two wide forwards, if I just bring the rest of the team, so there's your back four, there's your front three. Let's get two midfielders in. There you go. The fullbacks generally don't like to go and press in there. They get nervous because of the narrowing positions of our two wider forwards as well. That's why I've not put them as right wing and left wing, because I want you to think that they're not wingers. So with that, we can create this little bit of a 2v1. If he goes to press in there, we've then got that direct pass into there, and we've got loads of little options. But the one that we're kind of looking for is just that simple pass. And then in here, we've got a 2v1. That's what we're trying to recreate on both sides. Now, we haven't come across anything else at the moment with a sort of like a 3-5-2 or anything like that. It is kind of, once again, really easy to work around depending on the structure of the other team. But trying to create these wide overloads. These two players here are exceptional, so we want them to be 1v1 as much as possible. So that was kind of my main thought to start with. Can we get that little bit of an overload in? This is what I've seen previously in watching local level football, where these wide forwards kind of then go and press. And yeah, if they don't, and they do sit back in a shape, so let's just say they sit back in a, they don't go press, then we just ask our centre-halves to carry. A lot of centre-halves, and we'll talk about this in the out-of-possession stuff as well, the centre-halves at local level are really nervous about breaking lines. And what I've asked my kind of two centre-halves to do, when that space is there, just carry with it. Just carry with it like that. At one point, these teams are not rigid and disciplined as what you see in the Premier League. At some point, someone will break rank. And as soon as they do, whether it's the wide player, we can then start playing, and we play a little bit further up. So we just gas our centre-halves, not to drive in at real speed, but drive in there and just suck someone out. If it's the other centre forward, then we can play around and go the other way. If it's the wide midfielder, then I said we can play in there, no problem. And when he does press, can we get in there? Now, what we were kind of thinking after the couple of games is that we need to give the centre-back a couple of options. So what we try to create at times is 2 wide diamonds. All we're trying to create there is passing options. We've got the half-back that's still coming into the middle. We're going to ask our centre-forward, often likes to drop in, but we're creating that for him. So he's got an option back to the goalie. He's got an option square to the half-back if necessary. He's got an option out wide to the left-back. He's got an option with this central midfielder that we spoke about, the number 8. That we haven't really spoke about. And then the left forward. Instead of saying high and wide, he's going to come into these little pockets here. If that drags in a wide player, we've then got that space to attack, whether it's with the left-back, or with him stretching it, or him having a drive. He's so good. The second game of the season, we won 5-1. He absolutely ran the right back ragged because we just had him carrying and getting 1v1s in. So, yeah, and it's exactly the same on the other side. Now, we haven't really spoke about, if I delete all them, we haven't really spoke about the other number 8. So at times, our other DM, the captain, would drop in and play. Sometimes we would build with a 2. All I asked this guy to do was to not be involved in the first play and just shuffle. Just shuffle across. Wherever the ball went, could he be a little bit of an option inside? That was it. Just supporting the play as much as possible. Great engine, decent range of passing as well. But he was literally doing that, shuttling across. You know, an obvious football manager role is the Carrilero. And then as the play progresses, we're patient. We play off the lines. A couple of times we've been so good at, as well, the centre forward dropping in, giving their 2 centre halves an issue in terms of, you know, should he go in and press? We've got this little option here with the central striker who loves the ball to feet, and then he's so good at turning and spinning those balls into that space there. And then obviously if the centre half drops off, he can then dribble and carry himself. So we've got a few nice little options. He's bright enough as well to know when to do the popping off or the turn and travel. He can always really cause problems to those 2 centre-halves by just his tiny little bit of movement. So as we progress up the field and as teams sit in, the thing that we always try and pushed with was just being patient. We're lucky enough the home pitch is big pitch, really nice pitch. So, you know, when we're at home, we can really play a game where we just keep the ball, get the opponents chasing, and then can we get those 3 key players, those attacking 3 players in. And what you find as well with the wide forwards, this is sometimes what I spoke about in the initial video, that sometimes the wide forwards in uncoached teams often end up looking like that, and they leave these big holes in these areas here in between where they should be and where the fullback is. So that's what we try and exploit. And in the final third, we ask our fullbacks to be direct. Now at times, we've maybe been a little bit too direct and we just changed it up, the role of the fullback. And it's going to be quite difficult actually to get that right in the game. But we've had a really good rest defence. Key that now that we've changed it, that we've got the 2 centre-halves. We've got the 2 defensive midfielders. The central midfielders is allowed to get involved. We've got the right winger and the left winger, or the left forward, right forward, tucked inside. The right forward, as I said, remember, wants to be a centre forward. He don't want to be out here. I think he maybe, if you asked him, he'd choose to be a central striker. So by giving him that opportunity to be closer to the play, it often looked like a front 2. So this player here is very much sort of like a creative 10 winger kind of player, and he would drift all over to get on the ball. The other guy, he's very much, I just want the ball in these attacking areas. So we'd often even look a little bit like that, almost looking like a front 2, which was absolutely fine because he was so good at carrying on to his left foot and shooting. But in that final third, one thing that we tried to get our fullbacks to do, and they started doing it really well in the last game, the second game that I coached, the second league game. So what we said to him was, as play recycles round, let's just say it goes across, what we don't want him to do is to be out here too early. So we've been asking him to be almost a third central midfielder. So if the ball's on the left, it would then come. And as we start to recycle here, as we start to play, by the time it's got to there, he's now in that position there. And then everyone would then just naturally, obviously, shuffle across. And our left back would then be tucking in. So they're kind of playing as a left and inverted at times, but it's only when the ball's on the opposite side. It's just tucking in and giving us a really nice rest defence, which, once again, not coached. I'm trying not to sound like I'm slagging all the other managers off and stuff, But I do find it where they set a team up, they shout, "Come on, boys." And yeah, what I thought I would do is that, and I think I said it in the video a couple of years ago, just a couple of initial tweaks, couple of initial things that teams repeat time and time and time again. If you've got a really good set of lads who can kind of follow the same thing every single week, they'll kind of get success if they've got the quality. And these boys, we found we just had too many ups and downs in terms of when they were absolutely amazing, they were unstoppable, and then dips in games. So it was trying to control the dips a little bit was going to be the next phase if I'd have continued. But one of those things was just having the right fullback so we could just maintain pressure a little bit. We're really good at just picking the right passes. The manager goes mental if players waste the ball and rush it and kick long. So trying to have that, if you're going to build pressure, you need to make sure that the opponents can't get out. And that's what we did really well. And just by having that other midfield, that other fullback coming in on the opposite side, tucking in, just gave us that option there just to kind of surround the pitch, surround the box a little bit. Okay, that was the in possession. In the final third, the final third stuff is probably the most trickiest to coach. When you don't have training sessions, well, we did have training sessions, but interestingly, after a couple of, I think the first week of pre-season, lads don't turn up to training, but if you say there's a game, they turn up. And once again, if you want to coach kind of this stuff, you need 22 players. You need to, get the youth team across or the reserves across to kind of do, right, you're going to play against this and we can build our shape. Now, we didn't have the luxury of that. So what I said is that we need to get in as many pre-season games as possible so we could act and practice during games and just, like they are, but count the pre-season matches of not so much fitness, because the lads at this level should be fit and we never did any running whatsoever during pre-season. It was all about using them as training sessions and the things that I've then worked on pre-match. Can we just keep doing it regardless if we maybe make mistakes or whatever? The more we do of a pre-season, the better we get. And it probably proved to be the right decision. Lads turn up more, as I said, to matches than what they do to training sessions. And we ended up playing about 5 pre-season games. That was the in possession. As said, the idea is, if you can get the front 3 in dangerous areas, then we're going to be absolutely fine. But it was kind of building a structure around them to get it to them without getting it to them too quickly. I think sometimes the idea is the front 3 up there, they're the best in the league. Let's just hoy the ball up. And it don't work like that, especially when you're ignoring some really good technical players in the midfield. So out of possession is the easiest thing to coach. I think it's the simplest because you're literally just saying when that guy does that, you do this. So we're going to set up a pressing trap and then the trigger. So what we found was in the first game of the season, you often get this in any sort of level, is that you sometimes get a little bit of a ball player and at times you'll get the old-fashioned kind of hacker centre-half, the old school kind of Sunday League, maybe defender without sounding a little bit too harsh. But yeah, there will be generally one either both right-footed as well. So that was something that we looked at. We made sure that our 2 wide forwards were not too high. We wanted to encourage the fullbacks to get on the ball. So we went man for man in the midfield, which was often a midfield 3. And then what we did do is we said to Flynn, the striker, you've got to make sure that you pick the player with the kind of strongest ability on the ball. You've got to mark him. We're going to allow the other one to be absolutely free. So at times what we've done is the first game of the season, they had a really good left centre-half and the right back, and the right centre-back was dogger. He just didn't know what to do with it. And he kind of would carry. And eventually he would just try and play a long ball or a scruffy pass or play a dodgy pass. He would never recycle or go home like we've coached our lads to do. So what we did was we just allowed him to have the ball. As soon as it went there, we then pressed. We then would ask Flynn to come across and then we would press from there. And that was our trap. So the trap was feeding the centre-half, the shit one, basically, to the ball. And our pressing trigger was when it went out wide or if it went into midfield. Generally, because how we would set up hopefully quite narrow, was that the ball would go into the wide areas and then we would press. So as I said, once it goes out there, we would then hunt. Everyone would then come across really tight, ask our left fullback to be really tight on the winger, make sure our centre-halves have been able to kind of cover around like that. Extremely simple to set up and it worked really well. Sometimes our team got a little bit worried that, at times we would end up dropping quite deep as the centre-half if we just bring the lads back a little bit, they would maybe think, because we sometimes sat in a 3 like that, they would get worried that this player was all this way forward, but he just never knew what to do with it. Sometimes what we did as well, like the first game of the season, they actually had 2 left centre halves. So they were both pretty good on the ball. They weren't bad actually. We drew 0-0, shit pitch, couldn't get our game going, but we grafted a 0-0 draw. Nice to get a clean sheet as well. But what we then said was, left footer, his passing range is that big sweep. Let's just put a little curved arrow in. So he was looking at doing kind of that. Now, if the ball goes onto the other centre half, his passing arc is a lot more difficult. He's going to find it hard to play passes in because he's naturally on that sort of like right side. So what we did was we told our centre forward to go mark the one who was sweeping those passes and then allow that other guy to... He would often pick passes out, but it's a lot more trickier to pick a long straight pass out rather than that big diagonal. So that was something that we looked at and it worked pretty well. So that was the pressing trigger. Transitions, we just said, look, attitude, which we can't really talk about in game. That was just purely a mental thing. Get that ball back. In possession, we build like we have. Really patient. Low crosses into the box. I have a big thing about working the ball into the box as well. Hitting low crosses in. I find, even though we're playing at a decent level, heading goals from open play is very low. We actually are really dangerous from set pieces because we've got a couple, 3 or 4, 2 centre halves are big. Holding midfielder, a half-back player manager, really big as well, tremendous in the air. So we had 3, 4, 5 maybe players touching 6 foot that we could kind of use and exploit. But from open play, requires a little bit more quality in the attacking areas in terms of crosses, heading technique, everything makes it a little bit more tricky to score. So we were really keen on not crossing early, getting into these areas here, and then firing crosses across the goal. Something that we've kind of worked on a little bit. It was more just a natural thing that we wanted to play football in here anyway. So we weren't overly keen on. And also that really thing of not wasting possession of the ball, not getting into these areas here, and our left full-back just hoying balls into the box. Okay, so that was the tactic. Let me know what you think to it. We're now going to go into FM and kind of go through it team structure-wise, play roles and all that kind of thing. And then we'll show you a couple of clips at the end to kind of highlight the pros and the cons of maybe the FM stuff. But to be fair, it's actually worked pretty damn good. All right, the tactic will be available for the patrons, link down in the description. Yeah, if you want to support the channel, that would be absolutely amazing. Patreon's going to be massive for me. In a year's time, when I look at diving in, or less than a year's time, it'll be like 9 months' time because there'll be pre-season prep and everything to kind of get back into football managing. I really want to do something with VO, which is an online, which is a video like match analysis. It's like a live camera, means that you can analyse games, and I'm hoping to bring that kind of content over to maybe the Patreon as well, do like live streams, like debriefs, match analysis of the team that I'm managing. Costs a lot of money. It's up to like £1,000 a year. So yeah, I need to build up that Patreon, and if we can do that, that would be amazing because the content we could do would be absolutely sensational. Right, that's enough of the sell. Link below. Let's go and see what it looks like in the game. Okay, so this is what I've put together in Football Manager, the Kirby Mo side of the team. So the team that I've been back coaching, there it is, got a jacket. I'm going to have to send him that jacket back. They bought me a jacket. Unfortunately, they train on the same night Ralphie goes training as well in York, so I can't commit to it. And also, I didn't really want to commit to just training. I feel like training needs to be based on the things that I see in the match. And yeah, because I'm not there on match days, it was kind of pointless. So yeah, I need to give that jacket back. But yeah, there it is, the Mo Siders. And this is what I've put together. So, sweeper, keeper, and defend. We didn't speak too much about the goalkeeper. A young lad, decent enough on the ball, tremendous shot stopper, brilliant catching, would do the right things. Would play, if I ask him to play left, play right, play long, he would do as he's told. He would listen to everyone, listen to me, listen to the manager, which is really good. So I've just put him as a sweeper keeper. At times we tried to get him involved in the game. If the opponents weren't pressing too high, maybe either with a front 2 or a front 3, front 4, we'd need him to get on the ball a little bit to split the centre half. So we'd sometimes build with a back 3, but the goalkeeper being like the middle centre back, and he did it quite comfortably. He knew when to go long. He didn't overplay. We never told him off for kicking long when there was a little bit of pressure. We let him make the right decisions, and I can't think of a time when he didn't make the right decision actually at any point during pre-season in those games. So sweeper, keeper, on defend. Full back on either side. We've gone fullback on attack. I didn't want to go wing back because I thought that would be too aggressive. We ask a lot of the fullbacks, but they're not the primary kind of advantage threat going forward in that final third. It's those front three that we're looking at in particular. They're kind of playing very much a supporting role and kind of, double up a lot of the time. So I just thought with the instruction of the fullback is a key in modern football. Where is it? He must be prepared to get forward when the team needs extra width. With the attack duty, the fullback supplements his defensive responsibilities by overlapping and providing first-time crosses into the area. So I've done that. I thought that would be really good to have them as the fullbacks on attack rather than the wing-back on attack. They will still get forward. There's still overlap, play instructions in here as well to kind of force it a little bit more. So yeah. Right, 2 ball-playing defenders. Now we had 2 defenders. One was very aggressive, very front-footed defending, still comfortable, really good on the ball, but was maybe a little bit more old school than younger lad who tend to play a little bit more. But it was important that we gave them a couple of key things. So we've got this on both on the right defender, because he was the more physical one. Pass it shorter. We didn't want him to go long. Dribble more. So when we get that overloading, trying to pull out that wide forward so we can play around. Sometimes if they've sat back in a little bit of a block, we need then the centre forwards to kind of dribble forward and encourage someone to come out. You remember the Brighton way, the De Zerbi way, where the centre half stands on the ball and literally waits for the other team to go and get it? Doesn't work so much. So all we're doing is trying to suck out a midfielder, a wide player, and then we can play around. So we can do that with dribble more. And then I've gone tackle harder and mark tighter. Super aggressive. I think at this level, centre forwards often struggle with their back to goal. Their support around them is normally quite far away. If you're dominating games, you find that the middle 3 are quite deep and the 2 wide players are very wide. So my thing is to make sure that the centre forward doesn't get the time to get the ball down and play and allow to bring players in. We're really aggressive without giving away free kicks. Left side, similar, but pass it shorter and dribble more. So we're still looking at dribbling, passing it shorter to make sure that's more of an FM thing as well. And no, not real, for us as well, because we wanted not them to waste possession. But we do find sometimes them ball playing defenders like them big sweeping passes that we didn't want. Okay, left hand side, we've got the halfback. Now the player manager was left footed, so he would often drift into these areas. We've seen the halfback drifting here, so we've got him on the left hand side. Halfback defend. Unfortunately, he's not. The dribble less is a little bit of an issue because he's a tremendous ball carrier as well. So hopefully FM26 can sort that out. I really want someone who can drop in to a back 3, like Frankie de Jong did it at times for Barcelona, where he drops in here and then drives. And yeah, we need to make a few more of these rules customizable, because dribble, not so much dribble more, but allowing the player to dribble, bring the ball out. See, look, player trait for Dan Batty. Brings the ball out of defence, and that would be super cool if we could get that for FM26, please, Miles. Right, the other number 6, I started as an anchor, but I thought that was a little bit unfair because he does work well in the sort of like the middle third, and he's not just a ball winner; he's a really tidy player. I didn't want to go playmaker because I thought that would allow more riskier passes, and he's very just safe. Ticks things over, gets players with better quality. Not so much the player in terms of technical, but the match winners, trying to get them the ball as much as possible. So I've gone DM on support. And then that number 8, we've just gone with a Carrilero, but I've got the player instruction as well of get further forward because he was allowed to join in. On the right-hand side, we've got our initial striker. So the right-hand side was our left-footed striker who really wanted to be a centre forward. So I've put him on attack, so he would join up and link a little bit more. Sit narrow as well because we want him in that pocket to try and create that front 2. I thought it was important for a mental thing for him not to be hugging out wide. I think the closer he finds himself to the striking position, the more comfortable he would have felt. A more happy player generally get better results. So inside forward on attack, sit narrow. Left hand side a little bit different. We've gone sit narrow again because we wanted to create that diamond, remember. We still want him to be a threat. We're going to allow the fullbacks to go around, but we're going to allow him to roam because he would often drop deep. He would pick up these areas and he would dribble and drive. So roam from position, sit narrow. Deep line forward for the centre forward. It could have been a complete forward, I suppose. Yeah, complete forward on attack would have been good for him because he could do it. He does a little bit of everything. But I've just gone DLF, complete forward. I thought it would just suit the system a little bit more. But complete forward on attack, DLF on attack. Yeah, none of the others really. So that gives you the team shape. In possession, positive mentality, fairly wide attacking width. We don't need to be overly aggressive and overly wide. We want to bring those wide forwards in as much as possible. We're going to get the overlaps from the fullbacks, so we're patient. That allows the player to, I think, to be a little bit more patient. Look, instructs players on the left flank to hold on to the ball rather than being too quick. We wanted to create those overloads. So, once again, it allows us to be, I think, a little bit more patient in possession. Playing out from defence, shorter passing, slightly higher tempo. I didn't want to go too fast because that moves the ball too quickly into that final third. We were going to wait for the right times. Be more expressive, so allow players to rotate and move. And then low crosses that I spoke about earlier. No high balls into the box, and we take our time and try and work. We're so good at getting like little cutbacks and dribbles and drives in there rather than crossing early. In transition, counter pressing, yes. We're not going to counter attack. It will naturally occur at times anyway, but the idea was that we didn't rush it. We were kind of happy, we were lucky that in pre-season and stuff, we were never really chasing games. We were winning and just playing a set way. We never really got the opportunity to counter because of the size of the pitch. We basically played on a kid's pitch with a terrible kind of playing surface. So it wasn't one of those games. It was just very limiting to counter attack on a really small pitch, basically. So we didn't do that on. We were more than happy just to play, let the keeper allow him to have some time. So that's why we've got slow pace down goalkeeper, wait for everyone to get set up, and then we just roll. We never rush it, get players in set positions, and then we can do those couple of little movements that we spoke about. Once again, repetition. Take your time, get players into the right positions. When that happens, where do you go? Just a couple of little movements, and you can kind of pull through teams with a little bit of quality. You can pull through teams that have kind of not been coached to press properly. And then out of possession, high press, high line, dominating the game as much as possible. Work rate was a number one. That trigger press as well, that we're going to talk about right now. So, opposition instructions. Now, they've set up in a 4-2-3-1, Hartlepool. So I'm going to show you, this is what you have to do every single game. So what I would do is, and what we did, and I'll show you a clip coming up in a minute. I think it was a game against Truro. We looked at this two centre half. So we looked at how good their passing was, so 6-11. And then Parks, passing 11. So this is where we've got to make a choice. Now, he's left-footed, he's Parks, and Coogan is right-footed. Now, if they were both on the right side, right-footed, we'd press the left centre half. But because Parks is 11 and Coogan's going to be 6-11, we're going to say that he's the weaker centre-back. So if he's the weaker centre-back, we need to allow him to have the ball. What we never do is press the goalie. Unless we're chasing the game the last few minutes, we never press the goalie because your press gets beaten. It's pointless. I also found as well, teams don't recycle back to the goalkeeper very often. And when they do, the keeper punts it long anyway. So we're not going to press the goalie, and we're not going to press Maxim Coogan. We're not going to press him. We're going to press the the left centre back, and then the left back. Here, tight marking on all the other attacking players. So when that ball does snap in there, we're tight and aggressive. What I don't want to do is tight mark the left and right back though, because if we do that, if we mark really tight and we don't give them a passing option, a limited passing option, then they tend to go long. And we wanted to really encourage that ball going into fullbacks a little bit, because remember, they've got the ball, they've got the touchline on one side, they're really kind of isolated at times for options. So we wanted to encourage that pass as much as possible. So no tight marking, but we would do tight marking on that left centre back. And that's how we would set up. Just like that. Now the player instruction as well, for the striker, I would then go into Ollie Pearce, our striker for the game. I would go edit, mark specific player, and then we would tell him to mark that left centre half, who's the other one. And it worked pretty well. Now I chose York City. You can actually play with Kirby Moorside, the team that I've been coaching in the summer. If you get like the non-league database, you can actually coach. You can actually manage Kirby. They're in like the York Premier League. So yeah, you want to start a save. Two of the players as well. The player manager's in the database. And also the striker's in the database as well, because he was a York City YT. So he's even got his photo in the game. There you go. So, right. So this is how we set ourselves up. Our right forward is eventually going to be the goal scorer. Now, what we said is when in possession, we want him to be a little bit narrow. So he comes in, plays. This is where we want him. We don't want him out here. We want him narrower as possible because he's a striker. And there he is on his right foot. So that's what we were trying to recreate as much as possible in real life, getting him into those dangerous areas, not hugging the touchline, not a winger coming in, not like a Saka. He's a winger. He wants to stay out wide and then cut in, but the player that we had out there was very much wanted to be that second striker. And then we've got a really good move here. So there's our defensive midfielder. So this is our half-back look. Getting on the ball. We've got our inside forward coming short. Full-back. Nice and wide and high. And then we just rotate. Look, we move the ball. Really patient. Picking out passes. There's our Carrilero. In. Good move. And then the out of possession stuff. Now this is what... So we set ourselves up to press one of the centre halves. I can't remember. I'll show you the clip now. This clip shows how good we are at the pressing, how it actually works. So can you see our number 9 is man marking Sanders. So he's a left centre back and a lot more comfortable in possession than the right centre back. So this is where it comes from now. Possession works. Look, so we're triggering, pressing, midfielders, and then watch the team. No one presses. Soon as he plays it, we're pressing. Now for me, the wide players come out. Sorry, the centre midfielder. Our wide player is a little bit too narrow, but he'll come out, look, we get round, we press, we hunt. When he goes to the centre half, we get our shape. Look at the trigger press. Can you see the trigger presses as we play? They're really good. We allow him to have it again, and we trigger press as soon as that ball goes in. So it does work. Look at our number 9. Maybe a little bit of an overkill, but what that is doing, it is stopping that left centre half getting on the ball. He was the danger. He could potentially be the ball carrier. So he's stopping that. Ideally, I would probably, in real life, I would probably want that number 9 to be maybe in here where my mouse is now. So he can stop, so he can press him a little bit, but then stop. What we don't want is to stop that ball going across. Now, if it went to the goalkeeper and then back out there, we would maybe then structure it where we just said to the striker, look, you stay with him like he's here, you stay with him. But ideally, I'd like him to come across a little bit and just still make sure that you force him this way. Don't allow him to play backwards. Can you force him into these areas where we're nice and covered and got really good shape? So this is a good goal once again to show you our match winner, number 12. It's my favourite player at Yorkshire, even though he's not kicked a ball for us yet, Craig Ollie. Starting wide. But then there's our striker look, linking play. That's our left forward look. Nice and narrow. Look at the space our left wing back has now got because of it. Really good passing to the number 8 who's trying to find positions in that midfield. And then look where he is. And now, look, 2 strikers. We're pretty much playing with 2 strikers there. Often sometimes even look like maybe a little bit of a diamond at times with the centre forward dropping in, 2 wide players coming in narrow. And then he's going to get on the end of it. Smash once again. So that's what we were trying to kind of create is, can we get our best players, or best player, our best goal scorer anyway, into better scoring positions? Playing up front, he's all right at it, but the other centre forward we had was more complete in terms of playing with his back to goal. The wide forward in particular just like to get on the ball, dribble, drive, and get into that penalty box. So we tried to give him that opportunity by having him more as an inside forward than a winger, getting him off that line, getting him into more dangerous areas, exploiting as well 2v1s in wide areas, you know, when fullbacks have gone out and gone and pressed. All right, guys, hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you think to it and what we've kind of worked on there. So it's worked pretty nicely. I'm really chuffed with the ideas that I've had and going into, you know, when FM26 comes out, I'll really have a deep dive into my philosophy and not philosophy, but the way I would play football at local level. I did it with like a 3-5-2 and now doing this and coaching this in the summer, I believe this is easier to implement than the 3-5-2 that I was looking at. So maybe we go with this and we'll find out in a year's time not a year's time, 9 months time when we start looking at taking things ahead with the new football team in real life. So that'd be pretty cool. Hope you support the channel. Smash the subscribe before you go. If you want to get involved in the Patreon, tactic downloads every single week and also that real life football content. I'm going to start dropping little bits in there for people to follow as I sort of like build up and give you progress on everything from kits, sponsorship, you name it, you know, everything about kind of building up a new football team. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Take care. See you later.